If you have to love the truth just to know if it is true, wouldn't you love to know if the essence of a thing begs to hear your tender wooing? Wouldn't you love to know?
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Steve Bell Live from the Vault, Episode 3. And I'm not going to lie to you, this is not live. We tried to do a live concert to Facebook about 45 minutes ago, and just it got dropped from the internet several times. We had to keep on restarting, and finally we just realized maybe things are just too busy on the internet these days. And so we're recording it locally, and then we'll just pop it up on YouTube, which is what you're watching. So welcome. I'm glad I can do this. I'm glad I can sing for you, and I'm glad you're watching. I want to give a shout out to my granddaughter, Nora. Nora, I know you're watching, and she's a year and a half old, or almost 2 years old now, and she loves to watch Pop on TV, apparently, and so that touches me very much, and I wish I could be with you, Nora. And my other grandkids, Pax and Luca, Kieran and Charlie. My mom apparently is watching. She is in a home, and I want to give a shout-out to those who are caring for her right now in our stead. Thank you very, very much, and Mom, I love you, and we'll see you soon enough, okay? Here's a Lent song. The lyrics come from my friend Malcolm Guite, an English poet. It's called Lenten Lands, and it takes the form of a love song of a lover who's calling out to one who has turned away from him, and he's hoping she'll turn back towards him. And so it's a call out in a sense. And Malcolm is the one that taught me that Lent, the word Lent means lengthen, and it refers to spring, actually. And we typically think of Lent as a dark time, but technically it's the other way around. It's a burgeoning of light. It's the season when the sun stays out a little bit longer, and it's a little close to the earth, and it melts off the freeze, the snow, and the ice, and it warms the earth, and it draws out seeds and new shoots and greenery. It's a turning, and you'll hear that word a lot in this song. A turning towards life, away from death. It's beauty. Thank you, Malcolm.
My love is gone away in Lenten lands, gone far away and clean forsaken me. And will she perish in those desert sands, or will she turn again and come to me? I brought her out of Egypt in her youth. She clung to me when we were on the run. She tires of freedom now, she tires of truth, and seeks for something new under the sun. The time of year has come when all things turn. The sun returns to warm the wintry earth. The land revives, the plants and seedlings yearn towards their rich beginnings and their birth. And will she turn, or will she turn again? I hold my arms out wide upon the tree. And will she see me turn to her through pain, and turn again to me? The time of year has come when all things turn. The sun returns to warm the wintry earth. The land revives, the plants and seedlings yearn towards their rich beginnings and their birth. The grapes are swelling on the fruitful vine. The figs are ripe and low upon the bough. I break the bread for her and pour the wine, and all I am is turned towards her now. The grapes are swelling on the fruitful vine. The figs are ripe and low upon the bough. I break the bread for her and pour the wine, and all I am is turned towards her now.
Isn't that a beauty? What a song. Thank you, Malcolm. Thank you so much. When I was considering what to sing for you this week, it's Holy Week, the week before Easter Sunday. It's the week that we walk with Jesus to Good Friday. And I thought I should do this one. It's called Love is Our Way to God. And this is the week that more than ever we see Jesus showing us the way to God. The way to life, in a sense, the way to salvation, in a way. And it's not a way that the world typically understands. We usually typically think of ourselves as sort of buttressing our vulnerabilities with power, with wealth, but Jesus shows us a different way. And he starts by rejecting some ways that are known to the world. On Palm Sunday, we have the story of Jesus going into Jerusalem on a donkey amid shouts of Hosanna. In the ancient Near East, going into a city on a donkey was sort of what conquering monarchs or sovereigns did as they conquered a new city. And after all that nasty work had been done, they go into the city in a donkey, and it's sort of suggesting that this is a new era of peace. And Jesus rejects the empire's way and rejects the militarism. He rejects the fight in a sense, and he goes in a different way. And so this is his way of saying, that's not my way. I do things differently. And then a couple days later, we see Jesus going into the temple and seeing how the scoundrels have sort of taken over religion. He sees people taking advantage of others who, through the abuse of religion, through religiosity, which is not the same as religion, right? Religion is a good thing. Religion comes from the word religament, suggesting that we've been separated, and this is the work that we do to reconnect with one another. That's what religion is religamenting with each other, with all of creation, and we've seen that breakdown happen, right? And with God, right? This all happens at once. So religion is a fine thing. Religiosity is different. Religiosity is another way of powering over others, right? It's a way of starting with, what's the word I'm looking for? Starting with rejection, and setting up rules for coming into the communion. And Jesus doesn't do that. Jesus has an openness throughout Christ, his whole life. There's an openness that we see on the cross too, with the arms spread out wide, right? So he rejects religiosity, and then he walks the path of love and shows it to us through his own self-donation for us on the cross. And so here, and so he basically shows us the way, opens the way by walking it himself, sort of clears the stuff on the pathway, clears the way for us, and then invites us to follow. So that was a muddled introduction. It's a good song.
Love is our way to God, for God is love. Love is our way to God, for God is love. The wilderness road of shame is gone. The desert road of dislocation gone. The stony road of loneliness has now become a royal way, a highway home. Love is our way to God, for God is love. Love is our way to God, for God is love. And all who carry disappointment, come. And you fear the fire of judgment, come. And those who teach this royal way is not for some. Shame on you. Now lovers come, 'cause love is our way to God, for God is love. Love is our way to God, for God is love. Love is patient, love is kind. Love pays ill, no, never mind. Love refines the finest gold, the charity of saintly souls. The only thing left for us to do is love. If this alone be done, it is enough. And as we love the other, God abides in us. God unseen, but seen in love. Love is our way to God, for God is love. Love is our way to God, for God is love. Love is our way to God, for God is love. Love is our way to God, for God is love.
Okay, I wanted to do this one for you. It's actually not an Easter or Holy Week song. It's actually a Christmas song, but it's never too early to pump your Christmas album, I think. So I'll give this a shot. The reason why I wanted to do it, it's another poem written by my friend Malcolm that I put to music. It's called Descent, and it was written for the Feast of Nativity, which is the festival of the birth of Jesus, otherwise known as Christmas. And the reason why I wanted to do it now is to just kind of highlight something, that this is, like, Easter and Christmas are part of one story, and they inform each other deeply, right? And to sort of take out Easter from Christmas or Christmas from Easter is to sort of diminish the wholeness of the story. And at Christmas time, we see our faith teaches us that the incarnation of Christ is really God condescending to come to our mortal plane, a place of solidarity with us in our vulnerability, that this sovereign, this God, this one, is not one who despises weakness or vulnerability. In fact, this is one who embraces humility and who lives for the other. God lives for the other within God's very self. Our tradition teaches us that the Father lives and pours himself out for the Son, and the Son lives and pours himself out for the Father. There's this, they call it perichoretic relationship, where one is in the other. I in you and you in me, right? It's a beautiful kind of way of thinking. This is who God is, and this is also who God is towards all of God's creation, that God doesn't despise the world, God's own creation, except God adores it, and is willing to live with us in radical solidarity with us in our vulnerability. And so you see at Christmas time, Jesus being born, not in splendor, not in a palace, but Jesus is born in a manger, homeless. Within a very short time, Jesus is a displaced refugee with his family on his way to Egypt, fleeing the pogroms of Herod. And this is who God is, that God is with us. Emmanuel, right? God is with us. And on Holy Week, God is with us still, right? In a new way. So I'll do this one. Wrong key. The poem is called Descent. I'll read it to you once, recite it to you once, and then I'll sing it for you. And Malcolm wrote this, and he kind of does it in a way where it compares, it sort of hymns the quality of Christ as compared to gods as they would have been understood in the Roman time. Very, very different. And so it's a bit of a polemic. They're like this, but you're like that. It's beautiful. It says, they sought to soar into the skies, those classic gods of high renown. For lofty pride aspires to rise, but you came down. You dropped down from the mountain sheer and forsook the eagle for the dove. The other gods demanded fear, but you gave love. Where chiseled marble seems to freeze their abstract and perfected form, compassion brought you to your knees. Your blood was warm. They called for blood in sacrifice. Their victims on an altar bled. When no one else could pay the price, you died instead. They towered above our mortal plane, dismissed this restless flesh with scorn, aloof from birth and death and pain and viruses. But you were born. You were born to this burden, these burdens borne by all, born with us all astride the grave, weak to be with us when we fall, but strong to save. Seems kind of appropriate now, doesn't it? It's a beautiful prayer from Malcolm. Thank you, buddy.
They sought to soar into the skies, those classic gods of high renown. For lofty pride aspires to rise, but you came down. Lofty pride aspires to rise, but you came down. You dropped down from the mountain sheer, forsook the eagle for the dove. The other gods demanded fear, but you gave love. The other gods demanded fear, but you gave love. Ooh, 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 ooh.
Where chiseled marble seemed to freeze their abstract and perfected form, compassion brought you to your knees. Your blood was warm. They called for blood in sacrifice. Their victims on an altar bled. When no one else could pay the price, you died instead.
When no one else could pay the price, you died instead. Ooh, ooh, ooh. They towered above our mortal plane, dismissed this restless flesh with scorn, aloof from birth and death and pain, but you were born. Aloof from birth and death and pain, but you were born. Born to these burdens, borne by all, born with us all, astride the grave, weak to be with us when we fall, and strong to save.
Weak to be with us when we fall, and strong to save.
I forgot to warn you that we had Malcolm on tape with you to hear his voice, so just in case that startled you, it's just nice to hear the poet in his own voice, isn't it? He's got such a lovely voice. Yeah. Okay, I'm going to sing you one more, and then I'm going to play you something that I recorded earlier in the week. So stick around at the end of this next song, okay? Because we're going to kind of go out in a different tone and then kind of go out in silence at the end of that. But I kind of brought some things for kind of a show and tell Holy Week episode. Things that are just significant to me, and particularly this week. My father died this last summer, and I'm still recovering from that, still getting used to the fact that my dad isn't around. This is, my dad was really a wonderful man. My dad is a wonderful man. And he was particularly good for seasons of disorientation. If you found yourself disoriented, if the world was shaken underneath your feet and you didn't really know where things were solid, he was the guy. You went to him, and he just had a way for absorbing your anxieties and regrounding you and setting you at peace. And boy, I tell you, I miss him in times like this for sure. And this is a bit of my dad. I got a little urn, just a little bit of him, of his ashes, and I keep it kind of close by. And it's been very close to me this week. Last week was his birthday, and then this week the Holy Week. And with all that's going on in the world, I sort of feel my dad with us still. Another thing, this is called a lacrimatory. This was made for me after my dad died by my daughter-in-law, Diana Pops. She's a beautiful art jeweler. I think we have a picture of that, if you can see it. It's a little dish, a little bowl. It's filled with leaves and little raindrops, or teardrops, sorry. And a lacrimatory is a bowl for tears. That's what it's for, is to catch your tears. And Diana beautifully made this for me after my father died. And the day after she gave this to me, which was stunning, and I keep it close by still. I haven't actually physically cried into it yet, but I do keep it by and pick it up and hold it. And it's beautiful. But on Holy Week, one of the stories that we retell is the story of Jesus on top of a hill looking over Jerusalem and bursting into tears for Jerusalem, for all that he loves. It's such a touching moment. Malcolm writes about it in his book, Word in the Wilderness, A Poem a Day for Lent and Easter by Malcolm Guite. This is a beauty, folks. I read it last year, but it's very different for me this year. So he refers to Luke's Gospel, chapter 19, verse 41. As he came near and saw the city, he wept over it. Somehow I find in this time the notion that Jesus weeps with us, for us, not because of us, which I was kind of taught as a little boy, that if Jesus is crying, it's probably because of something you did, which I think is pretty bad theology, ultimately. I just see compassion. He came near and saw the city, and he wept over it. It's a beautiful thing. And then Jesus Weeps is a poem that Malcolm wrote, and I want to read it to you. It's gorgeous. Listen to this. Jesus comes near, and he beholds the city, and he looks on us with tears in his eyes. And wells of mercy, streams of love and pity flow from the fountain whence all things arise. He loved us into life and longs to gather and meet with his beloved face to face. Me too. How often he has called, just like a careful mother, and wept for our refusals of his grace. Wept for a world that, weary with his weeping, benumbed and stumbling, turns the other way. Fatigued compassion is already sleeping, while her worst nightmares stalk the light of day. But we might awaken yet and face those fears, if we could only see ourselves through Jesus' tears. Thank you, Malcolm. And then he writes this real shortly. He says, to know that you have been wept for is to know that you are loved. And then he writes this, I have a God who knows what it is to weep, and who weeps for me, weeps with me, understands to the depths and from the inside of the riru lacrimae, meaning the tears of things, the lacrimatory. He weeps and knows from the inside of that. So basically I want to play you something here. This is this little bowl. I discovered this by accident, but I just love it. It makes a gorgeous little sound. When I discovered that, I had my dad's little urn next by, and all of a sudden it dawned on me that it might make a nice little shaker. Listen to this. Just a little delicate shaker of my dad. And so I'm recording right now for my new album a song I wrote for my dad called In Memoriam. And when it comes out in the fall, when you hear it, it starts with a ping and a shaker. And that's what those things are. The one last thing I wanted to show you was this little cross that I've had for many, many years. It's a crucifix. Not quite the same as some that you often see of Jesus sort of hanging at the end, but with arms extended. And this is how I see the whole story of Christ's life and God as one who has open arms, who's coming towards us, wanting to invest in us, wanting to give himself for us. It's this kind of a gesture, right? I'm here. But it's also one of welcome. I also have a place. I've created a space for you in me, within me. You're welcome in me. I'm here for you. I come to you and for you, but also you're welcome in here. And I love this thing. I'll close with this song. Don't forget to stay after after the song is done. My church asked me if I would do a recording of the old spiritual "Were You There?" And so we did that this week for their online service. I just wanted to share it, but it's a nice way to go out. So at the end of the song, we'll pop that up so you could listen to it. Thank you for listening. It's an honor to sing for you. I'm glad we can do this. The song is called "This Is Love."
Father, just before the hour comes that was set aside to glorify your Son with the glory from before the world began, with the glory given to no other man. Protect the ones you've given me to love, and I so desire that none of them be lost. They've yet to understand the mystery, why the Son of God would wash another's feet. But this is not the same, it's a different thing altogether. This is not the same, it's another thing altogether. This is love. My prayer is not for only these alone, but for those who follow after I'm gone. May they understand the love you have for me as the kind of love that changes everything. They'll argue who will sit next to the throne, and I cringe to hear them say, "Thy kingdom come." They think they know what they're getting into, but we both know that they haven't got a clue. But this is not the same, it's a different thing altogether. This is not the same, it's another thing altogether. 'Cause this is love. This is love. Here's something that they won't like. Someone's coming to take the life. No one has to look farther than me, 'cause I am he. Some will trust in the things they think they know. They should think again and let them go. Let me die, 'cause this is not the same, it's a different thing altogether. This is not the same, it's a better thing altogether. 'Cause this is love. This is love. Were you there when they crucified my Lord? Oh, sometimes it causes me to tremble, tremble, tremble. Were you there when they crucified my Lord? Were you there when they laid him in the tomb? Were you there when they laid him in the tomb? Oh, sometimes it causes me to tremble, tremble, tremble. Were you there when they laid him in the tomb? Were you there when he rose up from the grave? Were you there when he rose up from the grave? Oh, sometimes it causes me to tremble, tremble, tremble. Were you there when he rose up from the grave?